Cycling has always been a big part of my life. I've been lucky enough to ride some of the world's biggest races and been paid to do my hobby. But what happens if life throws you a tough hand and you find yourself fighting for your life? Cycling becomes not only a passion, but a lifesaver. I'm off to meet cancer survivor and ultra-endurance record breaker, James Golding, to hear all about his story and find out what motivates him, drives him, and why he has become a man on a mission.
I'm James Golding and I'm an inspirational speaker, ultra-distance cyclist, cancer survivor and dad. At 28 years old, I was diagnosed with cancer. Doctors found an 11.5 centimetre tumour. Within 6 months, I'd gone from 14 stone to 6 and had less than 5% chance of survival. I then had an emergency operation where I was kept in an induced coma and had to relearn how to walk. At 29, I decided to cycle across America and was hit by a truck. Coming back from that, I decided to ride across America again and did it 10 days quicker than originally planned, but was once again diagnosed with cancer on return from there. In 2017, I broke the Guinness 7-day world record for most amount of miles cycled in 7 days and have raised over 3 million for charity, and plan next year to be the first Brit to win Race Across America.
James, thanks so much for having us here in Portugal anyway.
You're welcome, anytime.
Some place. And I think I'd really like to know, like, how have you ended up in Portugal? Why have you chosen Portugal as a base?
It's really nice. I mean, we're the advantage of being here is that obviously we're right on the coast. We're right next to Lolle, which is one of the kind of the biggest towns. It is the biggest town in the Algarve. Half an hour from the airport, but we'd sit right on the Volta Algarve route. So the Volta Algarve comes up the house, the garden this side one day, and it comes across the top on another. So
incredible. It's like the view as well. I mean, we're sitting looking out at the sea here. It's a spectacular view just at the hillside. My dad first bought this house about 10 years ago, and the more I came out and the more I explored, the more I liked it, and it got to the point of where I was getting off the plane here and almost feeling like I was home. And kind of when you get to that point, you kind of think, well, perhaps moving here is not such a silly idea. I've got a huge amount of scar tissue in my abdomen, which always plays up in the cold in the UK, and I don't get any of that here. And we've got a great cycling community around here in terms of the Portuguese cycling community, but also the expat community as well. And the roads are perfect. Well, you've said you're going to take me out on a spin, so I think we're going to head out into those orange groves now.
Yeah.
And I know things haven't always been like the sunshine we're sitting in right now for you. So I'm interested to hear a bit more about what's kind of got you to this point too, and why this is going to be such a big kind of launch pad, I think, for what you've got coming up next.
Yeah, look forward to it. Let's go for a ride.
Just head out on the bikes.
Definitely.
Let's do it. James, have you always been into cycling then? Has this been a constant in your life?
No, I got into riding I got into mountain bikes when I was 11. Bought my first Conor Fire mountain, saved up for months to buy it.
Really?
Raced cross country, raced downhill for a little while, then left sort of 17 years old, came away from it and didn't go anywhere near it until 28.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, bikes, I love them. They're my calm place.
Yeah, me too. It's just the time to think, isn't it? And what was the main catalyst for you for getting back on the bike?
In 2008, I was diagnosed with cancer. Intensive care, emergency operations, had to relearn how to walk. And then one day picked a bike up and rode 5 miles and around the local reservoir, and that was it. I could barely walk 500 yards, but to ride 5 miles was a sense of freedom that I don't remember, and I just built from there, really. And then I started chatting to a couple of different people about some stuff I wanted to do, and before I knew, I'd kind of agreed to ride across America.
But then things took another turn, didn't they?
Yeah, so on the first trip across America, celebrated my 30th birthday in Austin, Texas. 6 days later, got hit by a truck, 70 miles an hour from behind, put me 120 feet down the road.
Wow.
Broke 3 ribs, smashed up my elbow, took all the skin off my legs and off my hands. Got back to the UK, found out that I'd got MRSA as well. 3 days in hospital back in the States. And yeah, kind of weirdly, wasn't back to square one. I kind of took the opinion that it wasn't as bad as it could have been. I went back to America and did the whole ride again. I realised on that actually the bigger the days, the more comfortable I felt, weirdly. And that was where I kind of got a bit of a taste for the bigger miles.
It's kind of a hard question to ask, but looking back, do you think you'd have done all this if it wasn't for cancer?
Oh, no. No, there's no way. I mean, I've never have... I kind of... Whenever I'm doing a kind of a speaking engagement or talking to anybody about it, I try and create as much context around it as I can, but in many ways, I look at cancer now as... At first, I was angry with it. At first, I was really angry. And I wasn't overly calculated with the decisions that I made about the challenges that I wanted to do and the way I went about it. But it got to the point of where I almost became thankful to it. Again, I'm trying to choose the words carefully because don't get me wrong, you know, I fully respect how devastating it is and the destruction it causes, but I fought against that to try and create change in that. But cancer was one of the best things that ever happened to me. And that's other than my wife and my kids, you know, and the reason for that is because of what's come out the back of it, because of the money we've been able to raise, because of the awareness that we've been able to create around cancer, but also the people that I've met and the things that I've done. I would never have done this if I hadn't have been through that. I wouldn't really like to look at where I would be now if this hadn't have happened. It would be a complete contrast, I think, to where we are. So in some respects, as I say, I'm kind of thankful that it came into my life when it did. It was horrible, and I'd love to be able to flick a switch or create change that actually has that everlasting change in other people's lives. But for me, it has had a change.
James, I'm glad we stopped at a cafe anyway, because you've been absolutely flying here. I didn't have the pride to say to slow down. But I am interested to hear what's coming up next for you, because I know you're attempting to win the race across America.
Yeah, we had this conversation earlier. We don't use the word attempt. We don't use the word. It's again, you know, like I said earlier, it's not about being cocky. It's just about having confidence in your ability. But yeah, we're going to go and do a race across America. We're not going to attempt to do Race Across America. I'm of the view that we're going there to do Race Across America.
And what are you going to do then when you get there?
Well, Race Across America runs from Oceanside, California, right the way across to Maryland, Annapolis. So it's 3,100 miles. To be able to be in with a chance of winning it, you've probably got to be looking, providing Chris Ostrassa doesn't turn up, you're looking at kind of 8.5 days, really.
Yeah.
12-day cut-off on that. Obviously, I'd like to be the first British rider to win Race Across America. Again, that's not about being cocky or thinking that I'm better than anybody else that's there, but I have this thing that we should all believe that we can achieve these things that we put our minds to. We're all capable of achieving these things we put our minds to. And if you, by using the word attempt, I almost feel that you're kind of justifying why you don't achieve the things that you set out to go and achieve. So we should kind of go, yeah, I'm going there to win RAM. So there's an element of that in there, but I also have a subconscious of when I'm in a really dark place, I realise that I'm not really in a dark place. And that I know now that no matter where I push myself to, no matter how much we go to that side or how deep we can get, it's never going to be as deep as I went when I was ill. Cycling is one of those things where you can go out on a ride and be in the darkest place you've ever been and literally dragging yourself through the front door, and you have something to eat and you have a drink and you sit on the sofa and you sit there and go, enjoyed that.
And what does cycling mean to you?
Other than my family, everything. And I think that cycling made me a better person. I think cancer made me a better person. I think cycling then contributed towards that. Cycling is as important to me as some people will take it the wrong way, but it's as important as my children and my wife, because cycling allows me to be the person that I need to be for them. It seems strange talking about it, but I have to deal with depression, and the bike enables me to do that in so many ways.
So if it wasn't for the bike in that period of recovery, would it have been a lot harder?
Yeah, I could barely walk into town, but I could ride 5 miles around the local reservoir.
Really?
And that sense of freedom that you get from just that 5 miles, you know, little to no hair on my head because I was still recovering from treatment, to riding around the local resi at 5 miles was enormous. It was the biggest distance I'd travelled in months.
What would you say to people who are potentially at the start of such a horrific journey?
It's a good question. It's a very good question. I do get to speak to quite a few people who reach out and kind of ask various questions about it. It's a really difficult conversation to have because everybody's situation is completely different. And it does sound slightly cliche, but you've got to really hope for the best and visualize the best outcome that you can, as you have with everything. And in some respects, you've got to really put trust in the doctors and the medical profession. I always remember my surgeon saying to me when I was questioning what was going on, and I always remember him saying, James, there's no Haynes manual for this. Everybody's different. Everybody's cancer is different. Everybody's DNA is different. The way that we treat everybody is different. You've got to look after yourself in the best way that you can. Try and eat the right stuff, relax the best. You know, there's all the... I feel slightly awkward saying it because it's all kind of the stuff that we know. All you can kind of do is try and reassure people the best you can that they will be okay and that they'll be looked after in the best possible way. You know, the medical profession in the UK and around the world is not going to let anybody go through undue pain or stress because of it. They're going to do everything that they can to help them. And you know, we say that I survived cancer. I never use the word beat cancer because you never beat it. But I survived cancer. But I survived cancer with the help of the medical profession. They did everything else. I just fought everything that was thrown at me. The best advice that you can actually give anybody, not anybody that's going through cancer, but anybody that's around anybody that's going through cancer, is remember they're no different. Treat them the same way, but just understand if they're not quite feeling the same way. If somebody's feeling a little bit down and they don't want to come out, then that's fine. Don't pussyfoot around them, because most cancer patients that I know, they don't want to be treated any differently. They just want people to understand that they are going through something at the moment.
After leaving James, I couldn't help but reflect on just how incredibly humbling and inspiring it's been to spend time with him. The man has been through so much adversity. He's had every single bit of bad luck thrown at him. And yet here he is in Portugal, getting ready to take on what is arguably the hardest challenge you could dream up on a bike. There are many things we take for granted in life, and I think spending time with James has reminded me to make the most of every single moment, and also to remember just how powerful the experience of riding a bike can be. And for that, I can only be grateful.